Originally built on themes of love, the sonnet has become one of the English language's most well-known poetic forms. Brought to prominence through William Shakespeare's cycle of 154 sonnets, the themes have since expanded well beyond love and romance. With just 14 lines and a simple set of conflict and resolution, there always remains a sense of us, no matter what a poet's chosen subject may be. James Cummins says, "The sonnet doesn't elude us, the sonnet reflects us, or at least reflects what we want to see about us." Here, the lines of a sonnet with its fixed iambic pentameter reflect the natural canvas of the English language and reveal a small piece of us all in its form.
O'er mountains and valleys the line does meet. The infant's heart is strong and full of love. The mother rubs her newborn's precious feet, her premier gift from God up above. As days grow long, he follows along. His feet take a path, his hand takes a pen. He traces nature through lines in his songs, and frost has inflamed desire within. This puckish poet decides his own path. The trees are thick and way leads on to way. Life takes a turn and he emulates Plath, and his line begins to break. His passion comes through in all that he does, and the world will hear a poet's love.
When it comes to form, perhaps there isn't anything more ungainly than the sestina. At 39 lines and 7 stanzas built on 6 repeating words instead of rhymes, James Cummins regards the form as listening to a large wounded, bleeding animal that's brain dead. But yet, despite its lumbering form, there is an enduring quality of the sestina. Writing one is akin to starting a journey without knowing your destinations. Margaret Spanos take a more optimistic view of the form, saying the sestina is more properly an experience than an intransitive object. With the sestina, the destination and the miles don't really matter so long as you're having fun along the way.
It begins with a line as I sit at my notepad and beguile my way through ideas without having started. I think of an image and then get lost and give it a toss, and I scratch my noggin. I take an Advil for my noggin and go back to my pad with hopefully a fresh take. Crap it, still nothing. It's getting late, and before I go to bed I would like an idea to come, so I draw a line. I let it curve and dot and twist this line because I'm no Allen Ginsberg, so I let my pen swerve and just draw a simple B. Perhaps an idea can come forthwith, but I feel my poem is DOA. Instead, I close my notepad and say forget it. I try to sleep, but my brain won't let me forget it, and the piece stutters a broken line over and over through my mind without giving me a smidgen of relaxation from this marathon of thought. Why can't I let it be? I think of the Beatles' Let It Be, an ADD connection of a line from one tangent idea to a song without trying, and begin to worry because class is early and it is getting too late, like my chances to raise my GPA. I'll just have to let it be my GPA because poetry is in the moment and it illuminates as it begins to flow like gin from my finally unstopped mental bottleneck, and the line finally comes full throttle with a origin engine wide open. It lines up with ABC clarity. It begins with a line.
Free verse is defined as a negative to the older and more stable form of the formal poetry, such as sonnets, ballads, and sestinas. With no meter, predefined rhythm, or fixed rhymes, free verse is highly mercurial, form with no rules to govern it. Robert Frost once quipped, writing free verse is like playing tennis with the net down. But perhaps that's the point of free verse. After all, to play tennis without a net is to still play some sort of game. T.S. Eliot provides a counterpoint to Frost. We conclude that the division between conservative verse and vers libre does not exist, for there is only good verse, bad verse, and chaos.
Lines, what need have we? Let the net be ripped down and the dividing line between the court's two sides rendered a null. Let the poet decide whether good or bad or chaos. My words will speak. I draw some lines as Jackson Pollock, others as Michelangelo. Always a letter, a word, a phrase at a time. And I speak to the crowd, a letter, a word, a phrase, a line at a time. Whether I paint by numbers coloring a book page, however spectacular it may be, or a verbal Sistine Chapel, however broken it may be, the figure a poem makes begins in delight and ends in wisdom. Lines, what need have we? It begins with a line.
By the 1950s, verse began to take another turn as confessional poetry came to prominence. Confessional is unlike any other kind of poetry in that it deals almost exclusively in the feelings and psychic pain of the author, drawn from his or her own life experiences. Sylvia Plath, a poet whose name is nearly synonymous with confessional poetry, once said, "I think my poems immediately come out of the sensuous and emotional experiences I have." With themes of personal strife as its driving force, confessional poetry can be adapted to any form, whether free or formal. The lines will go wherever the poet's pain takes them.
I lie here in bed engulfed in this still, black, starless night, thinking about lines, the lines of a woman, the lines of cocaine, the broken line of a highway stretching into the cracked, broken, lifeless desert. Nothing coming, nothing going. All is dead and barren like the womb of my thoughts, and aborted ideas are failing heartbeats like a jagged red line in a sterile room. The lines of a woman's dangerous curves, the lines of the coke that broke my nerves, the lines of a highway where I lay with nothing coming and nothing going, and I feel my mind is going to break from the silence like the cracks in this lifeless desert, splintering off into jagged red lines, broken by the very sun that is supposed to give life. It begins with a line. I grasp for something, anything to orient me. The rest doesn't come, so I grasp and pull my pen from my chest, and I lay down a jagged red line on this page. My words are my pain, my words are my grave. It begins and ends with a line.
The elegy is a poem about a person who has passed on, lamenting his death and celebrating his life. Much like a confessional poem, its form isn't dictated by meter, rhyme, or line count, but instead by its subject matter. Paul Battle tells us the elegic traditional opening immediately cues the audience for a very different kind of poem, filled with sorrow and anxiety. The emphasis is not on action, but on feelings. As such, with no prescribed form outside of its themes, the elegy can take any form the poet chooses, so long as it reflects his thoughts on the deceased.
The lines of people are chained to his grave. Those who would somberly call him a friend, tears line our cheeks on this cold, lifeless day. His life a foreshadow of each coming end. There can be no more lines to flow from his pen. Our hearts are too grieved to read anyway. He put to the page what we all felt within, and death took the voice of all men today. These rigid headstones juxtapose his life, their orderly lines out of sync with him. His path curves round these stone monoliths, loose gravel trips all who come after him. He played with the net down, made his own game, then put the net up and made something new. When others followed, he put it away and grinned as they tried to tell him the rules. This buckish poet we all want to be. Through lines and rhymes we could share in his life. He pushed the limits of death to be free, but even in death his poems give life. A limit instilled when our first day dawns. No man knows the path that his life may take, save the creator of lives, short and long, who holds the keys to heaven's own gates. The poet by mercy for weakness now stands. The broken lines of his life are erased, as God, who granted him words with his hands, now writes an eternal story of grace.